What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Blackwater Podcast. Today is Monday, October the 26th. It is cold, wet, and rainy here. I guess that goes in hand with being wet, doesn't it? Here in Waco, Texas. We're not going to have a sponsor day. We will have a dedication. We will dedicate this podcast to Jeff Mueller. Jeff was a great friend of mine. Met Jeff when I was about 18 years old in Gregory, South Dakota, going up with the Double Bull guys to hunt with Double K Guide Service, Dave Kaiser up there. Merriam turkey hunting. Got to spend a couple days in the pop-up blind with Jeff. Jeff was an awesome dude. We stayed in touch. He helped me out over the years with different archery tech and equipment and stuff like that. Came down this past year to San Angelo, hunted Rios with me down in San Angelo, killed himself an awesome bird. He was just pumped up, got it with his bow. I was so proud of him for doing that. He had just got into finishing up starting Mueller's legendary outfitters up there in Gregory, South Dakota. Basically, he was taking over after Dave passed away. He was taking over what David started there. And unfortunately, last week we lost Jeff. He passed away. And just a terrible time for all parties involved in that deal. But we wish Jeff's family the best of luck. And I hope that Jeff and Dave are both up there in a golden double bull somewhere flinging arrows at turkeys right now. And if it's possible, buddy, save one for me, because I would definitely like to hunt with you guys again once I get up there. On to the topic of today's discussion. This is a topic that has gotten me in trouble so many times over the years. Not trouble, but gets people pissed off at me, which is a regular occurrence in my life. If you follow me on social media, you'll see that I do stir the pot quite a bit. And not always intentionally. Sometimes I got a horrible filter of not thinking before I speak, and so a lot of times I'll just say what's on my mind, and it rubs people the wrong way. But this is a topic that I do believe should be brought up, and if people get mad about it, that's okay, because in discussions, people should be passionate about their views on the way things should be, one side or the other. So the topic for today and podcast episode number 12 here is, should there be a hunting and outfitter? Should there be an outfitter and guides license in the state of Texas? Meaning, should you have to have a license or qualify to be an outfitter or a hunting guide in the state of Texas? I've brought this up in the past, and I've got mixed reviews on it. A lot of people hammer me right off the bat. Some people through private messaging, and some people will come right out and say it, that, you know, it's been done this way for years. I'm not old enough to have any input on that, or I don't know what I'm talking about, and this, that, and the other. And I'm going to say this. I don't know everything about our industry, but I do study our industry in and out. I have been involved in some capacity in our industry since I was 14 years old. I'm 34 years old now. That's 20 years that this business has been my life. I've gone from getting paid $20 to $40 a day to do nothing but skin pigs with no tips included, all the way up to owning Blackwater now, where we ran a little over 600 clients last year and have a pretty decent size operation. So I've been able to play the entire spectrum of this. I've seen hundreds of guys come and go. I've been involved in groups that have came and gone. I've been involved in companies that switched names or had falling outs. I've seen that happen so many times. I've been blessed to have been able to be on my own and do things my own way now for quite a few years, and life's been good from that point. But at the same time, you also see a lot of stuff where guys from out of state have horrible opinions of hunting in Texas, really bad raps that outfitters get, and people from out of state that get screwed around. You hear every year about guys that are just taking in mounds of deposits, and when it's time for the hunts to start, people calling in to you know, hey, I'm going to be there in a week. I need to know this, this, and this. And then you hear the story of, yeah, they have no idea. They can't get a hold of their outfitter, their guide. Basically, they just end up losing their deposit. You'll see, you know, at least once a year, usually more than that, guys in the news for taking in deposits and not running the hunts and being involved in some sort of, you know, legal aspect on that end. You hear a lot of times about landowners who let people come out and sign deals or contracts or whatever it is, verbal agreements with outfitters to come out to their property and hunt their property, and the outfitters bring clients out and they shoot a bunch of animals or this, that, and the other, and when it's time to pay the bill to the landowner, it doesn't happen. And then the landowners get extremely ticked off and therefore hate having outfitters. And you'll find that a lot of times you'll contact people about getting on their property to run hunts or bring clients on their property, and you'll hear a lot of times, we don't do business with outfitters. We got a really bad taste in our mouth from so and so or this, that, and the other. You get in situations where you hear this. We had this happen not too long ago, where you've got outfitters that are trying to run as many clients as they can, and therefore they're starting to do shady stuff like take people to property they don't have permission to be on, or shooting stuff in manners that they really shouldn't be shooting stuff. And then it comes back to getting back online, where 90% of what you hear about the outdoor industry today is online through social media and Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and this, that, and the other. And it always boils down to all of us are lumped into the same category. So when one guy from Colorado comes to Texas and gets screwed over, when he gets back and starts writing, it doesn't go to just that person. It ends up being everybody in this area. Everybody in Texas is this. And I'm not saying that having an outfitters or guide license would eliminate that, but I do think there are some things we could talk about that would solve a lot of these problems, or at least address a lot of these problems. And so to start that, I think if you look and do some research, you'll find out real fast that Texas is one of the fewer states that doesn't require anything to be an outfitter or a hunting guide other than having your hunting license. So take into consideration that, let's say that when I was in high school, they actually had classes in our high school in ag class. We had a 6 weeks program that was designed to get everybody in that class their hunter's education, right? So for 6 weeks, we went through the books, we got hunter's education. Okay, so let's say one of those individuals has his hunter's education, never hunted a day in his life, and now he's 35 years old, and he's working for wherever, Google or a school, or he's a janitor or whatever he is, and he's just been laid off, and his dad or his grandpa owns 150 acres somewhere that he saw a couple deer on before. That guy can now go create him a website or get on Facebook and promote that he's an outfitter, and as long as he goes down and he buys his hunting license, he can run hunts. He may have no idea about business management, about wildlife management or biology or the hunting laws or any of that, gun safety, any of it. He may have no idea about any of it. But if he has his hunter's ed and he has his hunting license, he can now be an outfitter, and he can take your money and encourage you to come out there and hunt with him on that piece of property. I think that's step one of being kind of awkward, especially for guys that are trying to do it the right way and have built something or have been in the business a long time and understands the ins and outs. That kind of puts a salty taste in your mouth for somebody being able to do that, knowing that there's a great chance that somebody from out of state is going to be able to come in on that hunt, and there's a great chance something's going to mess up, and that person's going to go back and cut out some form of population from being able to return to Texas as potential clients for all of us. So I think that's kind of the first step of it. I do like seeing people have to, a lot of states you see that they have proficiency exams, like, are you proficient enough can you pass a guide's exam? I do feel that should be a requirement. There are areas in our state, I know that at over in Killeen at Fort Hood, I don't know exactly what it is, but at Fort Hood, where you can apply to go hunting out at Fort Hood, it's bow hunting only, and you have to pass a proficiency exam with your archery setup prior to being allowed to go out there and hunt. So if there are instances in our state where we make hunters pass proficiency, that's tough to say for a goofball like me, proficiency exams, we should probably make people that are getting paid as professional hunters to take clients hunting should probably be able to pass a proficiency exam as well. And then with the license, being on top of that. So that's kind of point one. Point two on that, or the second thing that I see that it could help is that Texas is completely unregulated when it comes to pricing on hunts as well. And this always gets me in trouble right here. So you guys hang on and go ahead and start bashing in the comments below. But we're all over the board, and it's not all over the board in a good way or in an organized way, because I agree that there are times that pricing can be have a spectrum. All pricing should have a spectrum. You see it in everyday life, but I think we should somehow model ourselves to other industries that are successful and have spectrum type pricing. And if you take the vacation industry into consideration, you could see, like, if we were going to travel and a few of us were going to go, let's say, to the Dominican Republic and do a little vacation down there, we can have some people that go, okay, here's a hotel there. I'm going to get this hotel for this rate, and then I'm going to a la carte everything that I do. My adventures, my food, my alcohol, my travel, all that. I'm just going to a la carte that, pick and choose what I want to find. I'm going to find the best prices possible, or I'm only going to do this because that's the accommodation or amenity that I want. And you have that type of pricing, as well as you can go, I'm going to go stay at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Dominican, and it's going to cost me X amount of money, but everything that I do is going to be all inclusive while I'm there. So spectrum pricing in that aspect, I think it's a good deal, right? I mean, everything's kind of fair. I think where it falls to the wayside is that you get in Texas, and let me say this real quick. When those things are being offered, they're advertised as such, right? So the Hard Rock is showing you this is what all you're getting, and this is what's included. And when you get there, that's what you get, and that's what's included. The other thing is telling you each individual thing. This is what's included for this price. This is what's included for this price. But they're showing you verbatim what you're getting for that price. You get to Texas, you get online to look, and you'll have guys that are, you've got some guys that have really good operations that are showing you all inclusive, whatever. This is $2,500, $3,500, whatever it is. Here's the price. This is what all you get. This is where we stay. Very good pictures, very good video, very good references. It's all here. This is what you get. Then you come down and you have somebody else that's showing the same type animals, the same type setup, basically telling you you're going to get the same thing. And the price on that is, $800 to come do it. Or we see there's one individual that posts all the time, and I'm not going to bring up any names on anything, but you guys, a few of you that watch this will know, but you can get on Facebook and find it real easy too. But for like $350, you come out and you're going to shoot 3 exotics in one night for $350. Guys, it's next to impossible for that to happen, right? Because there are, in this industry, there are live sell animal costs, which correlates to replacement cost of species, right? So whether you believe in it or not, it's there. Okay, it's there. The animals in general have become a wholesale retail commodity type structure. So the price is there. It's impossible for a guy to stay in business if the wholesale price of animal X is $1,500 and he constantly advertises selling them for $800. The man cannot stay in business. It does not work like that. There is no piece of property that has an unlimited supply of species X that will never run out. And there's no way that a businessman or somebody in business can project longevity in said business by saying, I'm going to sell these animals at a retail cost, which is 50% of the wholesale cost of the animal. It just doesn't work. However, it is super easy for that individual to make things look pretty, place that out there, suck in business, take that for as long as he can, and then shut the doors and close his ears for nobody to be able to find him again. I don't believe that can continue to happen if we have regulations on who can be in business and what you can do and say while you're in business. And don't get me wrong here, because I know the number one stipulation or throwback that I get on me for bringing this topic up is that it's government overreach. And I get that, okay? Most of us in this business are like-minded politically, and therefore most of us see government as needs to be small, okay? I would venture to say that anybody that said no government at all was necessary, then I would venture to say that they would be wrong. I'm just going to say that. Somebody's going to get mad at this, but I would venture to say you'd be wrong, because you have to have some form of government to regulate things. If not, we're the wild, wild west. We're still riding around on dirt roads, and we have no paved roads, and any type of government system that you use, which we do use a bunch of government systems, would all be gone. So having some form of government regulation is okay to an extent. Okay. And so I'm not saying that we need the government to run our entire outfitting industry or the entire outdoor industry, but you never hear anybody complaining about how the fishing guide industry is ran from the point that those guys have to have license, because they do. They have to have guide's license as a fishing guide in the state of Texas. However, you don't hear fishing guides saying how horrible that is, and how that the government has just completely and totally overstepped their bounds. The Texas Parks and Wildlife has overstepped their bounds by forcing them to have that. As a matter of fact, it helps a lot in that business if guys are licensed, and it helps a lot for people who are looking to go with that fishing guide. So I think that can be done in our business as well. And I think what it does is, like I've just previously said before I went off on my little tangent there, is it allows us to have a proper organization of the way our business is structured. It allows clients to be able to look from the outside in to our state of Texas and go, these guys are licensed. They've passed a proficiency exam. They've paid money to be licensed and run hunts. And it helps to know that they're not getting their leg pulled. Will that still come up? Yes, it's still going to come up. You're not going to ever eliminate every problem with people, because you're dealing with people. So you're still going to have people that get hard up and have to lie, or I guess they don't have to lie, but do lie and do shady things with money. But I think there's stipulations and regulations you can put on that help eliminate those problems, and also help, Jim Bob from deciding that, whatever job he's in at this time just ain't cutting it anymore. So he's going to go over to Pappy's place and get him a website built and start selling hunts out there and undercut everybody else. And I'm not saying that competition is bad, but I am saying that the regulation of the pricing is something that should definitely be taken into consideration, because that does solve a lot of issues that people from the outside looking in do not understand. There are very few guys. I have probably 70% of my business is out of state. Very few of those people understand that there is a wholesale retail market system that happens with animals in the state of Texas. Very few of them understand that. Very few of them understand that the majority of outfitters in the state of Texas are not hunting property that they own. Okay, we hunt about 15 different ranches in Blackwater, and I get asked every single time, now, do you own all these ranches? Well, heck no. If I owned all these ranches, nobody'd know what my name was, right? I would have nothing to do with this. So a lot of these people think that these animals are just all ours that are out there, and we just take and do that as we please. And there's a strong disconnect with how the business aspect of our industry works. And when seen from the outside looking in, when looking and going, hey, these people, because here's another thing that it does for you. If you're an outfitter that has middle of the road to higher end pricing, what it does also to you, even though you're doing everything right, if you're doing everything right, okay, what it does to you when a guy has a lot of the same type pictures, the same looking setup, and animals that are a quarter of the price, what it does to you is it puts a taste in their mouth about you that maybe you're just out here screwing people over. So although you're doing everything that you can think of right by the book to give yourself the profit margins needed to stay in business and produce a long-term plan in this industry, you will now be looked at negatively as somebody who is jacking up the rate of hunting and screwing people over all out of greed, when in all reality, you're doing what's right and what needs to be done for the industry to help it sustain over a long period of time. So I do believe that having that type of license and having some sort of proficiency test does decrease the amount of outfitters. I tried to do a data study on it one time with one of my other companies. We do a lot of different data, and kind of goes back to my computer nerd stuff. But we tried to pull it one time off of just using Google, off of anything that had to do with basically just running a query over anything that has to do with a person attached to outfitting or guiding in the state of Texas. We were almost, without fishing, just hunting, we were almost at 5,000 names of different companies or individuals that claim themselves to be outfitters or guides in the state of Texas. That is a ton of people, and I can assure you that there are a ton more that don't put their name on there in reference to being a hunting guide or outfitter, but just find people and go, hey, yeah, well, you know what? If you're looking for that, just through private message, yeah, I can do you one better. We'll do it for this price, or we'll do it a lot cheaper. And I'm not going to use the word con, because I'm not saying that anybody's a con man, but convince people to come down to a place that is not set up properly to run that type of hunt and take their money and do the hunt. I don't want to sound like a tit and say that they're stealing business, because I don't believe that. I believe in my company, I tell my guys all the time, I don't care if somebody finds out who our clients are. I don't care if one of our clients decides to go hunt with somebody else. That is our problem. If we're not advertising ourselves properly, performing a good enough hunt, and giving a good enough service that the client wants to continue to come back time after time, then that's our problem. That's not somebody else stealing it from us. That's us not doing a good enough job to keep the client in-house. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I do believe that with proper regulation, that type of stuff would not happen. So I'm not saying that I think the government should come in and tell us all how to run our hunts and what we can do on our property and this, that, and the other, because I hear that a lot. And then a lot of times I hear that from the same people that say, well, you just want the government, you're going to let the government come in and tell you what to do on your own land to make a dollar. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to do that. But at the same time, buddy, you're on the MLD program, so you already got the government in there telling you what to do on your land. So, there's a lot of stuff that kind of goes hand in hand when you look at that. But when it comes down to dollars, people actually are more passionate about that. I'm not saying that the government should be allowed to tell you how to make a dollar on your property. But I am saying to participate in an industry that is as big as the Texas hunting industry is, I do believe that we do need some form of exam and some form of licensing system to allow people from other states and people within our own state to understand that we are regulated, we are organized, and that the people that are performing these duties are in some manner bought in and licensed to be able to do this as a profession. I've never heard of a profession where you can be a professional without any type of credentials that say you're a professional other than self-spoken or word of mouth. But I think it would be great if we had something like that. And also allow our landowners, when trying to acquire property, to be able to say, okay, this person has bought into the outdoor industry in the state of Texas. They are licensed. The state of Texas says they are deserving of being an outfitter, and have some type of organization within ourselves. I know there's a few guys that were starting a group that I think had some of this information, was in conjunction with the same type of deal. That some form of organization that would say that, yes, here is a list of licensed outfitters in our organization. Here is a registry of referrals or reviews, length of time in business, yada, 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 so that people can understand that when booking a hunt, and having to be a part of that system to be on that page and give people from outside looking in and landowners from outside looking in trying to do business here in Texas the ability to feel safer about spending their money or allowing people onto their property who claim to be outfitters or guides. It also helps cut down big time on I don't know how to say this without sounding harsh, but on some of the types of people that work in our industry. I don't know. Hopefully some outfitters are watching this, but if you've ever put out that you were looking for a new guide, let's say put an ad out, a very high percentage of the people that you get have very dark records. And a lot of times they would not be able to be working in another industry, yet they're able to come work as a professional hunter around guns and a lot of times alcohol and stuff like that with nothing but a hunting license to say that's okay. And so I do think that there's a safety issue in there as well. But long and short of it is, I think it would play very well into the hands of our industry. It would clean our industry up quite a bit. I don't see it as being an overstepping of bounds or an overregulation, because I think if you do this the right way, if we did this the right way, we could go with our set of regulations to the state building and be able to explain this is what we're interested in doing. Because it's not like that the state is just going to come up with the rules on their own and throw them on us. It has to be proposed to them. And I think through legislation, you could work it out to where it benefited the industry without overreaching and telling people what they could and couldn't do on their property. So that's kind of my take on it. There was another point that I was definitely wanting to hit on that I've kind of drawn a blank on right now, but the long and short of it is that there are tons of other states that are already involved in programs like this that allow for much cleaner organization in the outfitting sector of their states. And I really believe that it would help Texas immensely to be able to do something like that. So points being, it would clean us up. It would cut back on the number of people that are allowed to just start up an outfitting business at the drop of a hat with no prior experience involved. I think it would help regulate pricing across the industry. And I'm not saying that this is something where every outfitter in the state's going to have to go by the exact same price. That's not what I'm saying at all. My hotel example was hopefully clarity on that situation, but I do think that it would help regulate that by weeding out people that were just doing it as a way to make an extra $300 because that's what they needed at the time being, and not actually operating a real business. I also think with there being, now there's some states like New Mexico that only allow X amount of outfitter licenses per year, and this will put a bad taste in people's mouths, but I think long term that is a good plan for the state of Texas, because that allows you to sell your license upon retirement, and you do not have in the state of Texas. And I mean, hopefully you guys are using a good system. We talked about Stash before, or whatever, different types of brokerage systems, or 401ks or IRAs or whatever you're doing. Hopefully you're doing something to put money back for your future, but there's no such thing as retirement from the outfitting industry. Having a limited amount of license and building yourself a good book of business and a reputable name allows you at some point in your life to sell that off. Whereas right now, there's not much what are you going to sell if you're selling? I mean, I could sell my website, and if I had, X signed on dates contracted with different ranches, I could sell lease property, I guess you would say, a book of business, for instance. But anybody can start one up and go do it. If there's a stipulation where you can't, the only way you can get in is if I get out, or if Joe gets out, or John gets out, you can buy into their side. At that point, you have, a tangible asset that you can actually sell that you've put together all these years. I think that's a pretty cool way of doing it. I talked to a guy a couple years ago in New Mexico that was wanting to sell his license. He was wanting to get out, and he wanted to sell it for $350,000 for his, his pack mules and his tents and his to have access to the property he was on and all his guides knowledge and his book of business. And I thought that's pretty cool that that guy's able to do that, knowing that all I can really do is sell my website for somebody that wants better rankings on Google. So anyways, I think that's kind of my thought on it. I hope that you guys will leave your comments below. For the end of the segment, my take is I enjoy entertaining the thought of it. I think we need it. I think it cuts back on too many people being in the business. I think it cuts back on people jumping in with no experience. I think it helps regulate our pricing. And I think if we did it smart manner, we would not see overreaching from the government into our business. And putting that money back into Texas Parks and Wildlife, I think, does nothing but help for conservation and management of our state even more than we already do. Also, side note, I'll leave you guys with this. I also think it should be required that every outfitter in the state of Texas carry liability insurance, because that would solve a lot of problems and help ease landowners' minds about letting people on there too. But that's a different topic for a different day. Thanks again so much, guys, for watching this. The traffic is growing amazing. You guys are doing awesome. I sure hope you'll like and share this video. If you haven't subscribed, please click the subscribe button. Hopefully, as this grows, this may be a topic we revisit later. Had a buddy, one of my good buddies, Jay Leindecker, super smart guy. He got on the Facebook and commented. Jeremy got on and commented. There was a bunch of people getting on there commenting, and there's a bunch of people on different sides of the fence post. This is the type of topic that I would love to sit down when we actually had a big podcast one day as we grow, and sit down at a round table and have different guys with very good outdoor intelligence and business intelligence in their mind be able to speak up of how they think this thing should all play out. So hopefully that will happen one of these days. But for now, it's just me and my opinion, and I hope to see you guys' opinion in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Share this video, like this video, subscribe if you haven't. We'll see you back here on Thursday for episode 13.